You folks are doing wonderful tonight. There we go. We got the light on, so we are good to go here. And I want to welcome everyone to our Albany City Council meeting this evening. It's just wonderful to see a great turnout this evening, and I do hope we have enough chairs. I'm sorry if there's more in the hall or anything, but and I don't know if there's maybe any available in the back, but thank you so much. So first, we are going to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If you'd like to join us, thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mary, could we have a roll call, please?
Olson.
Here.
Sykes.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Kellum.
Here.
Kopsinski.
Here.
Coburn.
Here.
Okay. So we have on our agenda this evening, this is a proclamation, and we have proclamations for all kinds of organizations or events, or some community type, causes that are out there, and some are local and some are national. So this evening we have one, it's for the LGBT Pride Week, and this is for the week of July 16th, 2017. Whereas the month of June is globally recognized as LGBT Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall riots that occurred in June 1969. And whereas LGBT Pride Month was established in a worldwide effort to provide a positive stance against violence and discrimination toward lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. And whereas discrimination exists throughout the world, and the LGBT community is one that has experienced discrimination. Whereas members of the LGBT community live in Albany, we recognize them as our neighbors who deserve equal treatment. Now therefore, I, Sharon Canopa, the mayor of the city of Albany, Oregon, do hereby proclaim the week of July 16, 2017 as LGBT Pride Week in Albany, Oregon, and invite all citizens to observe this week, which recognizes the global goal of ending discrimination and violence against our LGBT community members. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Albany to be affixed this 12th day of July 2017. Okay, And with that, so we have one member who is Keith Colcal, and he would like to come up and say a few words about LGBT Pride Week. Keith?
Hi, Keith Colco, K-O-L-K-O-W, 2020 17th Street Southwest, Albany, Oregon. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the city staff to help me work on this project. I would like to invite everyone to attend our first ever Pride March here in Albany, Oregon on the 22nd of this month. And we'll be assembling here in front of City Hall at 10 a.m. So I encourage everyone to join. And thank you again, Mayor and Jorge, and thank you to the Human Relations Commission.
Okay, all right, thank you, And for those of you that don't know, is Keith's been wonderful in our community, being very active on many events, and just received an award also from the Human Relations Commission. So thank you, Keith, for all that you've done. So thank you. Okay, before we get to business from the public, we just have a quick item to take care of here, and this is over 5A, Republic Services request for night work during solar eclipse. And I think I saw Kevin here. Yes, Kevin. You were probably worried that I would switch the agenda around and put business from the public first, so you probably want to head out here.
All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Kevin Hines with Republic Services, 5125 Oak Run Drive, Albany, Oregon. So I'm here tonight to talk about the eclipse that is going to happen on Monday, October 21st at approximately 10 a.m.
August.
Pardon?
August.
What would I say?
October.
Oh, I'm sorry. 21st.
Hey, at least everybody was listening to
They were
you.
listening, yes, thank you. So August 21st, if you guys haven't heard, so, right?
I think-
So we know, what we've been hearing is there's going to be, approximately 200 to 500,000 people in our communities between Albany, Corvallis, Lebanon, Salem area. And one thing that we know, with that many people coming in our communities, there's going to be additional trash and recycling services. So we're trying to prepare ourselves. So is what we're requesting is a couple things outside of our franchise. We are, first off, we're asking that we change or we have a modified schedule. Our plan is to shut down on Monday and not run any routes at all. Everything that we're hearing says do everything you can to stay at home, be off the streets, and not be out running around. So we think it is safe that we're not out on the streets, trucks aren't running, so we're going to suggest that we do a modified schedule. So that means not working on Monday and working on Tuesday through Saturday, meaning that the customers that we service on Monday will be serviced on Tuesday, Tuesday customers on Wednesday, so forth, and then Friday customers on Saturday. The other exception to the franchise that's a little outside the boundaries is a modified schedule. Again, we don't know how many people are going to come in here. We don't know how much recycling and trash this is going to produce. We know it's going to be an increase over what we have and what we're currently running today. So we're asking to extend those hours. We don't know exactly what they're going to be. Our plan is we're going to bring additional folks in to help us out, possibly running a little bit earlier in the day, possibly running a little bit later into the evening. I don't think that this is going to affect our residential customers as much as it's going to affect our commercial customers, such as restaurants and hotels and things like that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of unknowns out there, right? We don't know how many people are going to come in. So that's why we're here tonight, to give some information, to let you know what our plan is. We'll know a little bit more as we get closer to that date. We have sent out letters to all of our cities and our counties asking for that exception. We have sent out letters to the Chamber of Commerce. We're putting press releases out. We're putting call blasts out to all of our customers, meaning all the customers that we have in our system that we have phone numbers. We're sending call blasts out to them, letting them know that, this is happening. We may be a little bit late. We may be a little bit early. Quite frankly, there's a lot of unknowns out there. So I just wanted to be here tonight to let you know what our plan is. It may change a little bit as we get closer to the event, but we're just asking that there's a couple of exceptions outside of what our normal franchise is. So again, that's why I'm here tonight. If you have any questions, I can certainly ask them, but there's just a lot of unknowns.
I was curious, Kevin, it just dawned on me as I'm seeing where outside of Albany, people that do have some fields are kind of opening up for tent camps. Are you getting any requests for additional garbage to be certain
That's
areas?
what's a little scary is, quite frankly, we're not yet. We are not getting the requests that we thought we would. I mean, I'm hearing all kinds of things from OSU opening up 1,500 to 2,000 dorms. I'm hearing places in the county that is opening up if they have farmer fields, they have 10 acres, and they're having folks come in. That's what's a little bit concerning, is the unknown, and we're not hearing that right now. So we're trying to get out the word as much as possible. We just don't know.
Well, I thought of one thing that might be a valuable tool for law enforcement and our emergency services would be is if you know of somebody that is opening up their field or someplace for an event, let them know so they kind of have it on their radar too.
Right.
So
I know there's been multiple meetings with
The
city
region.
administrators,
Yeah.
county commissioners, ODOT, Oregon State Police. I mean, everybody is, they're looking at this as a possible, like national disaster, because we just don't know. there's so much unknown, we don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So that's why we're asking for these exceptions. And it may not come to that, we don't know, but we definitely have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, oh, that's for sure, so, okay, yeah, Bill and
So,
Bessie?
Kevin, I understand you don't know for sure what's going to happen, things are going to change,
Right.
and it's primarily the commercial customers. So, at this point, would you anticipate if you normally put your trash and recycling out on Monday, you would still do that? Or do you think you'll try and notify those people that don't put them out till Tuesday?
No, so upon approval here, if we can have that exception, we'll send out notices and ask those folks to put their trash and recycling out on Tuesday. If it was a Monday route, put it out on Tuesday. So we're running one day behind, basically.
Yeah, I just got to thinking, if you mentioned like 4 o'clock in the morning, that I'd
Again,
probably
I
put it
don't-
out the night before.
I don't think it's going to affect our residential customers as much as our commercial customers. So our plan is just to run our regular routes in residential and our regular time, just one day
Gotcha.
modified. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Bessie?
say, Kevin, I appreciate you thinking ahead on this because, like you say, there's so many unknowns, but I am totally in favor of giving you the leeway you need to provide the service for everyone because, you just don't know what's going to happen, and one day later is fine with me.
Great, thank you.
Okay, all right, so, council, did you want to take action on this for giving the kind of green light for Republic Services to change your service?
Need a resolution? Or is it just
I think we
a nod of heads?
A motion is sufficient,
I
probably.
move that we allow Republic Services to modify their schedule as needed for the eclipse.
As needed, yeah.
And I think I heard a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it from Bessie.
All right, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, got the go-ahead and good luck to you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is business from the public, and I see there is quite a few folks here, and I don't know how many is wanting to come up to say a few words, but I did hear that there was a few people that wanted to speak. Could you show me your hands if you're wanting to speak? How many? 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's real doable. So even after they're done, I usually open it up if somebody else would like to also speak. We kind of pride ourselves on not having time limits, but we also want to encourage to be able to keep your comments in a timely manner. So sometimes we're used to listening when it comes to concerns, but sometimes you might have somebody next to you that wants you to kind of hurry up because they want their turn to be able to speak too. So if you can just kind of keep it more of in a timely manner, but we really welcome your concerns and your comments this evening. So with that, if you could raise your hands again, I think I missed yet the gentleman over there on the right. We'll start from the right. Yes. Yes. So everyone will need to state your name, spell your last name, and furnish your address. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kenny Larson. I live at 6024 Carroll Place Southwest. The reason I'm here is that I was dismayed to discover that 2/3 of my city council voted against diversity, equity, and inclusion being a part of the Human Relations Committee mission. I hope that this comes about from a misunderstanding of the difference in the meaning between the current harmony language and the language that was proposed. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that those of you who voted against it don't think you've ever experienced situations where you would have appreciated more inclusive language or tolerant behavior. The literal meaning of harmonious relationships is to be free from dissent or disagreement. In other words, don't rock the boat, don't be different. The Chinese Communist Party charges its citizens who campaign for basic rights and justice with disturbing harmony. Now, I understand that the original words were meant to be taken holistically, but diversity is something so universal in scope that it applies to all humanity, and that all of you who voted against the language would benefit from adding it to the public discussion. Now let me illustrate. If you're a Republican in the state of Oregon, your party was subjected to intimidation and persecution in May when an anarchist group threatened violence against your march in Portland. You're also a minority in both houses of our legislature. I suspect you feel that you would appreciate greater tolerance and diversity in the political discourse, one that is free of bombastic accusations from both sides. If you're a Christian who goes to church weekly, you're in the minority, with 80% of Americans thinking you should do something else on the weekend. If you're a Christian who feels like your views are being attacked, I'm sure you would like to feel like there's tolerance, diversity, and equity in the discussion regarding religion in our country. If you're over 65 in Albany, I suspect that you want to ensure that as the torch of government is passed to younger generations, you are not forgotten when we, the younger generations, make decisions on your Social Security, your Medicare, and your disability rules upon which you rely. Accounting for the experienced members in our community requires thinking in terms of diversity. Now let me take a moment and explain or share how my family has felt the impact of lack of sensitivity to diversity. My beautiful wife, who is not white, has been asked while grocery shopping if she is going to pay with her Oregon Trail card before she even had a chance to pull out her wallet. The clerk assumed that because she is not white, she must be somehow incapable of living without government assistance or that she was a mooch on the public dole. This is not meant as any sort of slight against people who really do need that kind of assistance. But this is the attitude that she experienced. Now the ironic thing is, she was making triple what the clerk was making. And this never happens when her white husband is with her. Or what about when my wife is followed about by loss prevention in stores because she is not white, when in reality, the white teenage tweakers nearby should be getting a little bit more attention? Or what about the dirty looks that she and I get when we walk around town sometimes, holding hands, a white man and a brown woman to whom he gave his heart? Now, because racism is a human weakness that is not confined to any particular ethnicity, we've gotten it from both sides. Now, please consider my words and reconsider your position. Please see that updating the language to include diversity, equity, and inclusion are just as important to you and those that look like you as it is to those that don't. I think you'll agree with John Stuart Mill's assertion in his 1859 essay titled On Liberty that a person may cause evil to others not only by his action, but by his inaction. I close my statement with a quote, one more quote from that venerable author. Society can and does execute its own mandates, and if it issues wrong mandates instead of right, or any mandates at all in things it ought not to meddle, it practices a social tyranny more formidable than many kinds of political oppression, since it leaves fewer means of escape, penetrating more deeply into the details of life and enslaving the soul itself. Protection, therefore, against the tyranny of the magistrate is not enough. There needs protection also against the tyranny of the prevailing opinion and feeling, against the tendency of society to impose by means other than civil penalties its own ideas and practices as rules of conduct on those who dissent from them, to fetter the development and, if possible, prevent the formation of any individuality not in harmony with its ways, and compels all characters to fashion themselves upon the model of its own. Please, counsel, reconsider your position. This is something that obviously many people feel strongly about. This is to vote against it is myopic, is short-sighted. Please reconsider your position. Thank you.
So in all due fairness, I do want to mention that part of our council chamber's rules is not clapping, so, but I know, I think Mr. Larson appreciates that and everyone, so. Could you not hear me? No. Oh, okay. I think this microphone need to be turned up. Okay. Can you hear? Okay. All right. I was just stating about our council chamber's policy rules is not to have clapping, to kind of refrain from that, so. Okay, thank you. Next, so.
Mayor, can you
yes.
mention that there's been no vote on this?
Right. Actually, there hasn't been a vote. So what was done was a first reading of the ordinance. And whenever it takes to read it a second time in the same evening, then you have to have a unanimous vote of all the members of council to have it read a second time to be able to take action on it that evening. So what the council said was just basically to hold it over. They voted no to hold over the ordinance until this meeting. And then that's where tonight we have the second reading of ordinance on it, and then that'll be taking action on that. And that's right after business from the public. So, okay? All right, and who else had their hand up? So, Carrie?
That clarification is very helpful. It's nice to know that. Gives me a little more hope. So I'm Carrie McQuillan, McQuillin, 525 6th Street Southwest. So first I want to thank you for the time that you'll spend listening to me today, and also for your service as city councilors. I know that it is a lot of work, and it doesn't pay very well. So I'm here this evening again because of my concern about the Human Relations Commission's what they brought forward and what I had perceived as a rejection of that language, but may be wrong in that. But nonetheless, I believe that the changes are important, and I wanted to talk a bit about why. And I am fortunate in my workplace because it emphasizes social justice, equity, inclusion, and diversity. And because of this, I've had the opportunity to learn about these issues, which I might not have learned about otherwise. Before I had that opportunity to learn that, I don't know that I would have seen the extreme difference between including the words diversity, equity, and inclusion and a harmonious community. And I am by no means an expert in this area, although I know there are some in the room, but I have collected a fair amount of knowledge and understanding. And I can only convey a small portion of this tonight, but I hope that it's helpful. So first I printed you all a timeline, which I'm not going to go through all together because you're probably going to gasp if you think I am. But I printed you all a timeline that was put together by a team led by Elaine Rector and then fact-checked by the Oregonian. It's a timeline of Oregon and U.S. racial immigration and education history. And I'm sorry that some of them are printed a little funny. I'm used to do this button at work, and at home I had to do flex print by myself. There are only 10.
It's funny.
Okay, I wanted to touch on just a few pieces of the timeline, but my goal in presenting this is to convey, one, that things that happened long ago still matter because they have a direct impact either on economic circumstances now or because they still play out in the way that our moment that we live in is shaping. Two, to point out that racism and oppression still happen today. And I want to convey this because these are two reasons why specifically calling out diversity, equity, and inclusion in our language is important. While those of us who are white may feel included in the word community when people use it, people from underserved groups have every reason to doubt that they are included. And so we have to use language that invites all people in. So, on page 4, 1848 to 1879, this talks about 3 decades of continuous conflicts between whites and Indian tribes and the Cayuse War. And essentially, Native Americans lost their land, and when reservations were created, they were all created on the east side of the mountains, which were not the areas that they were accustomed to farming. And there are only a few remote parcels of land that were reserved in the valley. In 1857, Oregon residents voted against slavery, which we hear about in our history classes, but voted in favor of excluding, quote, free Negroes from the state. The state's African-American population faced either leaving the state or suffering Southern-style segregation well into the 20th century. Meanwhile, a new exclusion law was added by popular vote to Oregon's Constitution's Bill of Rights. These are things that we don't learn in school, necessarily. In 1859, on February 14th, Oregon became the only state admitted to the Union with an exclusion law written into the state's constitution. I'm jumping forward. In 1942, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, all persons of Japanese heritage living in the western portion of Oregon and all western states were forced to move into internment camps together by the Wartime Civil Control Administration. In 1945, when those internees were released and trickled back to their old homes, they were often met with hostility by white neighbors, and some found their homes looted and their orchards vandalized, while others endured boycotts of their fruits, vegetables, or heard racial slurs or threats. A few were assaulted physically. Along with the many instances of blatant racism, intimidation, and hatred, some Oregonians welcomed and supported the return of these Japanese Americans. And then only in 1957 did lawmakers in Oregon pass the Fair Housing Act, which barred practices that had discriminated against African Americans in buying and renting places to live. This law made it illegal for property owners or agents receiving any public funding to discriminate solely because of race, color, religion, or national origin. And again, please note that's 1957. And in 1959, Oregon finally ratified the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, almost a century after most other states ratified it. We were the second last state to ratify that amendment. And the 15th Amendment provided that no government may prevent a citizen from voting based on that person's race, color, or previous condition of servitude. And then in 2000, Oregonians finally voted to remove all racist language from our Constitution, which still had a clause that read, no Negro, no free Negro or mulatto, not residing in the state at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall come, reside, or be within this state or hold any real estate. Though this language was rendered unenforceable by federal laws and amendments to the Constitution, it was not until 2000 that it was removed from the Oregon Constitution. So those are things that we don't necessarily learn, so I wanted to talk about them. And then the question is, why does it matter? You can say that much of what I mentioned happened long ago, or they were just words in a document. But you can see that the message about who belongs in Oregon has a much longer and more recent history of exclusion than anyone would like to consider. And those messages have legacies. It's no wonder that many people do not feel welcome or safe in our state. Additionally, many of the events that I read about have lasting economic impacts that create disparities today. So take me as an example. Both sides of my family were given land by the government, which assuredly was Native American land. Of course, they had to work hard to earn it, but they were given the opportunity to earn it, and that was not available to all. And at the most basic level, their land was not stolen from them. Some of my relatives may have bought land, but unlike other people who were barred from owning land, they had the opportunity to buy it. And while this can seem like an instance that happened long ago and has no impact today, it does. Family wealth is often passed along and it grows. While the wealth in my family's history is not grand, all the parents that I know about in my family were able to help their kids establish themselves and left behind at least a little when they passed away. And that helped me when my parents helped me go to school and coached me on how to earn the rest of the money that I would need to go to school by earning scholarships. And that's because their experience with higher education was fairly robust. And that was a huge benefit to me. And there are many examples of this, but I chose property as my first thing to talk about, and probably my main thing to talk about, because it demonstrates how things that happened in the past really do have impacts now and are relevant. Because for people of color, which is only one underserved group, they didn't have the advantage of my family history. Native American land was stolen. Japanese Americans lost their property, and yes, they were compensated with $25,000, but if you think about how property and wealth build over time, $25,000 does not replace that potential. And also consider Black or African American people who had no property as slaves, and in Oregon, when Oregon only passed the Fair Housing Act in 1957, you can see that that would still have an absolute impact. The legacies that our families leave us live on, and they give us a jump start or not. And that's just one example of why what happened long ago still matters today. So as you look at the timeline, it can seem like things have gotten better toward the later part, and there are nice things toward the end of the timeline, and they're worth celebrating. But we can't ignore the negative events that continue on. You heard about some current events from the person who spoke before me. But in addition to this, in 1981, 2 police officers dumped dead possums on an African-American-owned restaurant in Portland. The incident evoked ugly KKK imagery and touched off one of the most contentious disputes between police, city government, and the public. In 2007, an independent investigation commissioned by the Oregon School Activities Association confirmed that racial slurs and inappropriate actions occurred during and after games of the state basketball tournament. In 2008, a family in Medford, Oregon had a cross and letters KKK burned into their lawn. In 2008, again, 4 students at George Fox University in Newburgh confessed to hanging an effigy of Barack Obama from a tree with a sign saying Act 6 reject. Act 6 is a scholarship and leadership program for Portland students, many of whom are minorities. And then, just in addition to these, and from the Democrat Herald, in 2014, hateful flyers were left on cars during the 2014 Albany Veterans Day Parade. In 2016, threatening notes were sent to an interracial family in Salem. An equity project completed in 2016 in the Albany schools, which was a small qualitative study, found that 90% of Latino adults reported experiencing discrimination, and 77% of Latino kids did as well. Members of all underserved groups still hear hateful slurs directed toward them. And earlier this year, a man talked hatefully to a Muslim girl and her friend on a MAX train and killed 2 and injured 1 of those who tried to defend him. Given all of this, it is apparent why people from underserved groups may not hear their inclusion when we simply talk about a harmonious community. Using the words equity, inclusion, and diversity says that we mean everyone when we say community, and that we see inequality, and we see exclusion, and we know they exist, and we know that as a result, diversity is diminished, and that we will work against it. Also, please understand that equity, inclusion, and diversity are not buzzwords. They are incredibly common in all sorts of organizations today, and Albany needs to jump on that bandwagon. Perform a simple search and you'll see how common these terms are to missions, committees, and organizations. A very short example of what I found when I searched diversity, equity, and inclusion in Oregon on DuckDuckGo, which does not track your use, so you get a clean search each time, were the City of Beaverton, Oregon State Bar, OSU, U of O, PSU, Clackamas County, Multnomah County, OHSU, State of Oregon, and City of Portland, and so many more. Finally, I know that some counselors are worried that conversations like this will make Albany appear racist. Albany, like any other community, has problems with racism and all other isms. Perfection is unlikely to arrive anytime soon. What will make Albany stand out and rise above is its reaction to racism, not its denial of it. And you are the representatives of Albany and what Albany believes. Your vote today can assert that while, like all cities, we have residents who hold discriminatory beliefs, Albany values and will work for the inclusion and welcome of all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think somebody mentioned to me that someone had a petition this evening. Did they raise their hand up? Okay, yes, you want to come forward now? And you had your hand up originally, wasn't it? Yeah, when I asked, yes, okay. And if you can, state your name and your address.
My name is Megan Herman, Herman. I'm at 1405 30th Avenue Southeast, Albany. On behalf of the 366 citizens who signed it, I'm privileged to offer the council this petition, crafted to state the importance and value of the Human Relations Commission and the hard work they do for our community. This petition letter reads, "We, the undersigned, fully support the Albany Human Relations Commission and its key role in our city life. We believe that Albany's ability to become a welcoming community depends on embracing and acknowledging equity, inclusion, and the diversity that enriches and strengthens our community. One way we become a welcoming community is by speaking respectfully to each other, especially when we are representing the city and its constituents. Many of these signers believe that the history of service to all of Albany's residents, demonstrated by the Human Relations Commission, has proven that they are best able to clarify their purpose. They know how to best reach the underrepresented or marginalized members of our growing community. And these language changes do exactly that. This petition isn't just about the Albany residents who signed it. This is also about the way others view our community when they decide where to shop, or socialize, or potentially put down roots. If I can speak from my own heart, this is more than just a language change to the Human Relations Commission's purpose. This is a direct reflection of the open and welcoming community that I grew up in. And this is the same evolution of words that are used right now, as Carrie said, in many other organizations and communities to reflect their growing diversity and to continue to commit in their language to representing and supporting and welcoming every member of their communities. I grew up here. This is my town, and this is where I'm raising my daughters. And these are not buzzwords. They are core values that the Albany I know has always held. And I support the Human Relations Commission's desire to update the language of their purpose to match our increasingly diverse community.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Meg. Okay, is there anyone else? I think there was a few other hands that I saw. There was one in the back? Uh-huh. Oh, Katie, yeah. Didn't see you hiding back there, yeah.
My name is Katie Allaback, Allaback, and I live at 707 Broad Albany Street, Southwest in Albany. First, I want to thank the City Council for their public service on behalf of our community of Albany, and especially Mayor Knopa for her tireless dedication to our city. My family has been here for almost 15 years, and over that time, we have seen Albany improve in many ways. This is especially clear in the growing diversity in our community and the many added cultural and commercial dimensions we have now that we did not have before. It was not that long ago that I used to see hateful letters to the editor were printed on a rather regular basis in the Democrat Herald. I also witnessed and encountered subtle racism in the school district because I taught English as a second language to children from a variety of backgrounds. Those things are not gone, but they are changing. Albany is a better place, and now we have even greater aspirations. These are reflected in the Human Relations Commission and the need for improved language in their mission statement. I've heard criticism from the council about buzzwords and advocacy, but what I see in the Commission's new statement is clarified language that reflects the improvements and growing connections within our community and looks to honor our many experiences as well as our common ideals. And I look forward to seeing you all at Festival Latino, July 30th from 12 to 4. Los que saben dos lenguas hablan por dos.
All right. Thank you, Katie, so much. Thank you. Yes, I'll be there for Festival Latino. That's a fun event, too. So lots of good food also. But, yeah, okay. And who else had their hand up? So, yes. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. Yeah, in the orange.
So my name is Marisabel Governor, Gouverner, and I live at 1490 West Thornton Lake Drive in North Albany. I actually hesitate to speak after hearing such eloquent people speaking and touching on points that are really critical to our history, both past, the present, and the future. So I want to thank you because I don't normally come to these meetings. I want to thank all of you for the efforts that you make and what you do, because obviously you care. I believe that you care. I have perhaps a trusting nature so that I believe that you really care about the future, about the present. This is to some degree a failing on my part, because I should see that you are doing the work that you say that you will do. So, going back a little bit in history, but not to the degree that the other people who spoke before me did, I would say that there was a time in history, a feudal time, and feudal societies actually still exist on the planet, in which there are people in charge and people who do what they're told to do. And then there came a period in history which perhaps you would consider as buzzwords that caused changes that were dramatic. And those were words like justice and fairness and equality, and all men and women had rights. They didn't really mean the women part, but that changed, didn't it? That did change. And so women now do things like welcome you to a council meeting and make you feel actually at home. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So then what I think about is, what do you think about your purpose here in this city? And since I'm at, actually, I look much younger than I am. I'm at the end of my life. It's no joke, sir. I really am. Then my thought is, what is my legacy? I'm sure you must all think that too, because in history, it is possible that your pictures will appear on City Hall as people who worked for this city to make it the great city it will become. But it cannot become a great city if you don't open your eyes and see the world in which we actually live and the mistakes that we made in the past. Because we can't keep going in the same direction with the same mistakes, right? So buzzwords, trust me, justice, liberty were considered buzzwords, but they made this country the great country it became. So obviously, they weren't buzzwords, were they? Neither are the words diversity. You know, I should tell you guys that my father's black, my mother white, and I, in the last 6 months, have been asked weekly if I have documents, if I speak English, and do I have a right to be here? Don't you find that strange? Don't you find that strange? What period in history are we living? Do I not speak English? In fact, I speak 5 languages. I think I speak and handle English pretty well. So diversity, inclusion, equity, it is the history that we are living and will continue to live, and get on board so that your legacy will say that each one of your names will be registered as people who made a difference because they knew that justice and liberty and equality truly had meaning and were not buzzwords that would be passing and not significant. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very well said. So thank you. Okay, I remember seeing some other hands up. Yes, ma'am, right up front. And then I think there's someone in the back that will be next, yeah.
Hi, everybody. I am Erlene Wilson-Huey, W-I-L-S-O-N-H-U-E-Y, 2 words, no hyphen. And I have to let you know that I am nervous giving my address because I don't know if I will be a target. But my address is 2641 32nd Avenue Southeast, and I live in Albany. I too kind of didn't want to get up here and speak, but I always called out the weird words because when I heard about this, unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. The current climate is akin to climate of the past. I've lived in Oregon now for 20 years. I'm still getting adjusted to the rain. I'm a sun girl from California. I love the sun. 66 days is not enough. But I have 4 children, and I live in the South Albany district, but my children do not attend South Albany High. I purposely petitioned for my children to attend West Albany because of the symbolism that South Albany embraces. Me and the Confederacy just don't get along. And so for me, as a self-respecting black woman, to send my children to a school that openly embraced and that type of, even if it's just symbolism, to me it was akin to a Jewish person sending their child to Hitler High with a Nazi soldier and a swastika as the symbol for the mascots. So for that reason, I couldn't do it. Now, each one of my children have had experiences here in Albany. My youngest son is a senior now at West Albany High School, and he will probably be upset with me for sharing this story, but he was coming home from basketball practice riding a bike, and he was harassed by the police. He didn't think a big thing of it, but it scared the shit out of me, excuse my language, because I saw his life flash before my eyes. They want to cry. And my concern is my son coming home to me. That's a fear that I have. My car is currently broke. So each morning I get up and I catch the bus with him, 6:55 in the morning. Because I don't want him to catch it alone. And I know that I can't protect him. But being there with him makes me a little more secure, just in case anything pops off. I live in Albany, and I have those fears in Albany. I help plan and coordinate an African American Youth Leadership Conference. Every year, we do 2, upwards of 800 kids. Lynn, Benton, Lincoln, Lane County, as well as Salem Kaiser. A lot of those children who attend those conferences have similar experiences in school with bullying, in the community, walking, being spit at, having things thrown at them. These are the communities that we live in, and so when I heard that people were tripping off of the words of diversity, it's just like, it was troubling to me. Because while those are words, like the lady before me said, oftentimes those things aren't embraced, they're on paper. And so, for me, it just reinforced the type of climate that we're living in. My son is 25, my oldest son. I can't get him to come back to Albany. He had experiences too. He might come and visit me, but he doesn't want to come back and live here. I sent my daughters away purposely to go to school, and I'm going to send my youngest son too. I need them to get a different experience, but change is here. It's diverse groups within this community. We're here. Some of us are hidden, but I hope that this committee will choose to put those words in. And hopefully one day we will get to a place where they will be embraced and they will be practiced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Wilson-Huey. And, please understand, we don't want anyone to feel, like they're not, welcome in the community. So we welcome you, and we want you, and our goal here is to have everybody enjoy their community they live in and have a wonderful, fun time in the community. So, so we support you. So, yeah. Thinking I'm so sorry your children are having to feel that way too. Yes.
Good evening. My name's Spencer Hooker, H-O-O-K-E-R, just like it sounds. I live at 604 First Avenue East. I'm going to change the subject. I'm going to talk a little about this letter we got. The question in the letter says that my property is within 200 feet of this changes they're going to make as far as the zoning. So the question is that going to impact my property or my home or anything in relationship to this thing?
I'm kind of a little lost here on what was...
The 5 zoning areas they're going to have, in the downtown area.
Oh, for the downtown development, so.
Sir, if you could give me your name and address again, I'll get in contact with you, we can talk about it.
Spencer Hooker.
You said 604 First Avenue?
East.
Southeast, yeah.
604 First Avenue East.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, all
Thank you.
right. Thank you, Mr. Hooker. Yeah, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yes, there's a hand in the back, and then Scott in the very back. Yes.
Hi, good night. My name is Clarice Amorim Freitas. That's two last names. A, M as in Mary, O-R-I, M as in Mary, no hyphen, F-R-E-I-T-A-S. I live on 728 Montgomery Street, Southeast. And I have been a resident of Albany's Ward 1 since 2015, when my husband Daniel and I bought a house in the Heckleman district. I'm here today to speak in favor of changing the language in the ordinance for the Albany Human Relations Commission. I currently coordinate the Lean Benton Health Equity Alliance, working to ensure that every Albany resident has the opportunity to lead a healthy life. The Health Equity Alliance has existed for 9 years and has been funded by the state of Oregon for 6 years. Our work on equity, diversity, and inclusion has been and will continue to be a core guiding value for several of Oregon's institutions. Equity as a concept is often misunderstood for equality. Equality means treating everyone the same way. Equity means giving everyone what they need to be successful. Equity is not about equal treatment. It is about fair treatment. It acknowledges that not everyone begins at the starting line of the race, and that we all face different obstacles. Equity cares about where we end up, not where we started. It accepts that when everyone is different, fairness and success also differ. This is important because diversity in Albany spans across all aspects that make one person different from another. That can be gender, age, religion, disability, and sexual orientation. But it can also be race, ethnicity, national origin, and language. As of the last US Census, 6,100 people in Albany identified with a race other than white. That is over 12% of the city's population. 5,700 people identified as ethnically Latino or Hispanic. That is more than 11% of Albany's residents, and that's in addition to the people who identify with another race other than white. 5% of the people who reside here were born in another country, meaning our city has the third largest foreign-born population in the area. These diverse individuals are also an integral part of the Albany community. It is important to note that while an inclusive group is by definition diverse, a diverse group is not always inclusive. True inclusion exists when anyone can feel welcome, respected, supported, and valued. An inclusive and welcoming climate embraces differences and offers respect in words and actions for all people. It might be that concepts such as equity, diversity, and inclusion do not play a key role on everybody's personal life experiences. There are some people who have always had opportunities to succeed. It is possible that in our community, some people see more similarities than differences between them and their neighbors. And I'm sure that some Albany residents have always felt a sense of belonging here. And if that's the case, then I urge you to vote not with these specific people's personal needs in mind. Instead, I ask you to vote in a way that legitimates the need of other Albany residents whose life experiences can be improved by the implementation of equity, diversity, and inclusion in our community. And in closing, I thank you for your service and for listening.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So, okay, Scott, yes.
My name is Scott Lawley, L-A-W-L-E-Y, and I live at 528 2nd Avenue Southwest, apartment number 1. And I haven't got anything eloquent to say. I simply want to put on the record with my name on it that I am in support of the changes to the wording of the Human Relations Commission mission. That's simply all I have to say. but thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to do that.
All right, thank you, Scott. Right, I think that was it that I saw for hands. Was there someone else? Yes, sir. There was another hand? Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. Kind of hidden back there.
I kind of just decided this. Mick Glunz, Glunz, 3460 23rd Avenue Northwest. I am a fairly new resident to Albany. I've only been here about 3 years. But this wording matters. I agree. Buzzwords can be used for great things. Liberty. So it was a great buzzword when it first came out. But buzzwords can also be a bad thing too. And words have many definitions, and how we use them matters as well. People have been commenting on these words and using different definitions, and a couple of them bug me. Removing harmonious from their charter. Harmonious also has a definition of forming, a pleasing, or consistent whole. Now, yes, some people use it to say there's no disagreement, we're all, but once again, that's definition number 3. Higher up on that list is forming a pleasing or consistent whole. As a whole, if we all get along, that seems like a better outcome than, sorry, a little nervous is the first time I've done this. Your exact wording that you're adding, strengthening connections. We can strengthen connections is a stepping progress, but a goal should be a long-term situation. And a harmonious community seems like a much better goal for a committee in the human relations world. Now, I really want to turn back to this buzzword thing. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of people have been bringing up race as a specific thing. Nowhere in the current charter did I read anything that called out race, so I'm not exactly sure why that is the exact topic. Now, diversity can be a good thing, but diversity in and of itself and committing to diversity in and of itself is not necessarily a good thing either. Diversity of cancers inside the body is not necessarily good. I understand the meaning, but I'm just saying.
Point of order.
That's all I'm saying. Words do matter, so if we're going to change the charter, we should change it meaningfully and make sure we know exactly what we want to say. The lady before me called out equity versus equality, and her definition was good. I would like to read it again.
Do you want me to read it again?
I've got it right here. I'm just pulling it up. Equity is giving everyone what they need. Equality is treating everyone the same. Once again, words absolutely matter. What do we have to do if we have to give everyone what they need? If we have to give everyone what they need to be successful? That is a lot of extra work, policies, regulations that we have to put in place to make sure, going back to what the young lady said, ending up in the same place, where you end up. If it's equity, people end up in the same place. But equality, treating everybody equal, means they can go as far as they're willing or want to go. And inclusion. Once again, I believe in diversity and I believe in inclusion. I truly do. I served in the Marine Corps. I served beside Mexicans, Hispanics, blacks, Puerto Ricans, everybody. But once again, who are we including? I know we want to include everybody that we agree with or that we think is a good for the community. Once again, the words matter. Inclusion of what? Inclusion of everybody. Are we going to include the tweakers that someone previously discussed? Are they part of the community? Are we not going to say?
So folks.
Helping them once again, accepting their behavior is inclusion though.
Right.
That's inclusion. Once again, I'm not saying for or against, I just think words truly matter and we should think about the words that we do put in. Buzzwords are good, liberty is a great one, so is diversity. But other words are problematic and we can't simply choose the definitions of the words that we want. Personally, I really like the harmonious thing. I really think it's a good goal to create a harmonious community for Albany.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Galons, yeah, thank you. Okay, and I think there was someone in the very back, kind of hidden back there, yes. And I know, folks, is, there's, could be people here that kind of have on both sides of the issue, but we really appreciate just everybody to kind of respect everyone's opinion here, so, thank you.
Hi, my name is Audra Baca, that's B-A-C-A. I live at 1804 Northwest Olivia Circle. And I'm here to add my voice to the topic of the Human Relations Commission language changes. So, communication changes throughout time. We don't speak the same way that we did 50 years ago, and there's a reason for that. Language and words change, buzzwords, words that are popular, change. The mode of how we communicate with one another changes over the years. These changes are not arbitrary. Communication serves a purpose, and language develops alongside developing populations and developing cultures. Words such as equity, diversity, inclusion are powerful, positive action words that are needed in our current culture. These words were not created by one movement. They were developed over time to meet the communication needs to address real human issues going on right now. And these issues are very relevant to Albany citizens, obviously. Words are also very powerful, as the last gentleman discussed. They can incite a wide range of emotions, resulting in a wide range of behaviors. The language currently for the HRC, I pulled this off the website, the positive and respectful relations in the community, to me, speaks as we will politely tolerate each other. This is weak language that implies a mediocre effort to truly respect individual and community differences and lacks a sense of responsibility to work together as a community for the whole community good. It's the sense of, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to mind my business, and I'll just be nice to you as long as you do the same. The state of Oregon has the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We have our local Lynn Benton Health Equity Alliance, local private and public nonprofits, healthcare organizations, IHNCCO, public health organizations, education systems, and social services, all within Albany and Lynn County, that participate in committees, work groups, action groups, education and training, all on equity and diversity, because they know that these are not just buzzwords. They know that these are extremely important topics that affect the populations and the individuals that we work with on the ground in the public every day. I myself work for a nonprofit that works primarily with people in poverty. This is a population that we see face extreme systemic and cultural inequalities and inequities. We employ roughly 140 people, and every year we are required to take 8 hours of equity training, evidence-based equity training, and on top of that we also get training in diversity topics. So I would like to invite all of you to any of these trainings if you would like to join us. These are direct service employees that work directly with people every single day. They do home visits, they work in education and social services and public health. So we get training on a wide range of topics. So I would invite all of you and the gentleman who just came up to join us for some of those trainings to learn a little bit more about what equity and equality really mean and how you implement that when you're serving the public. I'd also invite you to join us just at work too, so you can actually meet the individuals that are affected by these things every day. So the duties of the commission are to focus on the things that may promote positive change, and then, So the duties of the commission are to focus on things that may promote positive change. So wouldn't it be the language change would be part of that promoting positive change. So I'm asking you to allow them to do their job in promoting positive change in the community by starting with language. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, I think that was it for everyone that wanted to speak. Or did I miss someone? Yes, okay, yes, sir. Yep, just caught them. Thank you, Frederick.
Good evening. My name is Zakir Khan, Khan, and for reasons that I will disclose to you, I will not be revealing my address today. And the reason for that is that I do hate crime work, and we have to protect ourselves. So I would just start off with telling you a couple of important names. Taliesin Metch, Ricky Best, Micah Fletcher. Do those names ring a bell? Those were the victims that we so far know the names of the Portland stabbings. And I have to sit back and sit here and wonder that in the wake of those stabbings, why is this not going through in the first reading? I'm like thoroughly confused. But let me just rewind a little bit. Before that was the Eugene Islamic Center, in which Muslim congregants were threatened by a man who went directly into the women's section to threaten women and children that he was going to kill them. And even in the wake of what happened on the Portland stabbings, on Memorial Day, a teacher and his pregnant social worker wife, an African-American Muslim couple, were on the way to the ER when for 20 blocks, a man drove next to their car, consistently swerved at that car, shouted anti-Muslim sentiments, and then made the image of a gun pulling a trigger at this couple. How in the wake of those three incidents can this not pass on a very first reading? I'm thoroughly confused, okay? And I know that in this city, in my short time here, because I just moved here in August, we care about vets. Ricky Best was a vet. And I have to think to myself that these guys died for a better Oregon, a more diverse Oregon, a more inclusive Oregon, a more equitable Oregon. I want you to remember those names, because those names matter. I personally actually have been working on all three of these cases. And I had to talk to victims of that hate crime in Eugene, and they were scared. They didn't want to go back to the mosque. And they didn't go back to the mosque until there were people from that community who actually stood outside the mosque guard so that they could pray in peace. And I hugged Taliesin Metch's mother as she was all tears. And I told her, we're going to stand up and try to do everything we can to fight for a better Oregon. We're going to try to make your son's legacy matter. And even this past family that we've been advocating for, in which the arrest just happened earlier this week, it took 5 weeks, but we still got an arrest. All of those people's suffering matters. And all of the people that are standing up for those people matter. And so right here today, you have an important choice to make. Are you going to celebrate the memory of those people that gave their lives for a better Oregon? Or do those lives not matter to you? And I think the answer is really simple, and it really shouldn't take much thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, those lives do matter. Yes, they do. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Felicia Soderstrom Caldera, Soderstrom-Caldera.
I think maybe speak a little bit louder. Did you pick it up?
Move the microphone closer to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was not planning to talk. My last name, first name is Felicia, my last name is Soderstrom Caldera, Soderstrom-Caldera. My last name represents something very important to me. It is the blending of two very important cultures. I'm a white woman. I'm as white as you come. I'm very proud of my background. My dad is Swedish Polish. My mom is Scotch-Irish. My husband is from Mexico. He is of the Patrol people, which is an indigenous group of people from Mexico. My children are of his blood. And as for a harmonious Albany, I grew up here. I grew up in Jefferson. I moved to Albany when I was 20. I've been here almost 20 years. As a white person growing up, it was very harmonious. I could ride my bike down the street and go to the store. I could go blocks away from my home to visit my friends. could go to Eleanor Hackleman Park with my father and the police not have to be called. My children have not experienced that. As a white person, I truly understand what the word privilege means. And looking back at my life, it was full of it. But seeing my children grow up, there has not been that harmony. Just last summer, on Old Salem in Geary, my children, we let them go for the first time to go get a soda from the store. My second son, who's not here, stayed outside with our dog on the steps with their dog while his two other brothers went inside to get the soda. And some person, a white man, there was a couple white men in a car, pulled over and called him the most horrendous name. My child was 11. They have not gone walking by themselves since. And that was their first time. Just last summer, I was at work and I get a call from my husband, the same park that my father took me to as a child, that I grew up enjoying, Eleanor Park. At that park, my husband called the police. My 3-year-old son, who looks Native American, wanted to play with another little girl who was there who was white. That dad and mom were not happy about that. He's 3. That man left and came back to that park with a bat. My husband called the police right from the get-go, and they came. The one police officer who spoke to the other man with the bat said, well, I believe it's just a rolled up newspaper or a magazine. That's what he said it was. There's a big, huge difference between a bat and rolled up paper. That is not harmonious, and that is what is going on in Albany. But those who get to live a harmonious life, like I grew up with as a white privileged person, don't understand that. A mother earlier today talked about what school she sent her child to. We made the same decision here in Albany. Our children go to South Shore. Why? Because it is more inclusive for them. It is more equitable. And diversity is very much there. And it matters greatly. That harmony that we're hearing about never existed. It didn't. It was just for a very few blessed people. Well, actually, I'm not going to say few. The majority of us who are blessed with it. But that minority group is growing. My children are the fastest growing demographic. So the change should come now and not wait. Because they will be the ones sitting in your guys' seat when you need them.
Thank you, Felicia. And I'm really sorry that you've had to, experience that. And, Albany, to me, I've always, pride ourselves too. We are a very welcoming community and a very caring community. And it's unfortunate that a few people's actions can give a different reflection on the community, which is very sad because that's not what we want for Albany. So what we can do to make it, as that very welcoming, caring community, we all need to make sure, we really put that word out there and make everybody feel at home and welcome. So, yeah. I think, Rod, did you want to come up? Yeah.
Thank you for your time, everyone. I really appreciate all of the service that you all give. I know a few of you personally, and I really appreciate you as friends and community members. Oh, I have to say my name, don't I? Sorry. Rod Bigner, that's Bigner, and I live on 326th Avenue Southwest in Albany, Oregon, and I'm proud to live in Albany, Oregon. A lot of people say they lived here their whole life. 4 years ago, my wife and I made a decision to move our family to this community because we really liked Albany. We came here and we looked at it, we had a business opportunity, we said this is where we want to do our life. And since that time I've come to love Albany. I think it's a fantastic city. some of the stories I've heard tonight have made me cry, and they've blown me away, because in the 4 years I've lived here, I've never once been afraid for my son and daughter to walk home from school. And when I hear these stories, it just rips the heart out of my chest for these people. And so I guess what I have to say to the council is, why not? Why not go the extra mile and include this language so we can do something to put into language that we care? That somehow, this may not happen to me, but it happens to people in my community who I care about. So that's my question, why not? And I also wanted to do, I don't know what kind of record this is or not, you know, like, is it in the minutes? That makes it official or something? No, it's on video. Look, I saw an interchange last week with two people that I consider friends, and I just thought it was put on the record that one of my friends was said that he wasn't a man of his word. And this guy doesn't need me to defend him, but I want to say I've come to know Javier Cervantes, and I've worked with him on a couple occasions, and I find him a man of great integrity, and I find that he gives a lot to this community, and I just wanted to get that somehow in the minutes. That personally, my experience is he is a man of his word, and he has integrity. And I just wanted to say that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you. Yes. Okay, I think, was that it then? I believe so. Okay, all right. Or there's a lady in the back, or go ahead, Frederick. And did you want to go ahead and start moving up?
I feel compelled to come up.
Okay.
You know, I have to. My name is Frederick J. Edwards. I'm the president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And most of you probably know me from something or another. But I'm sitting here and I'm listening to all of this, and not once have I heard love in all of this here. Nobody said that. I'm looking at this council, and I thank you all, needless to say, for all your work. You know that. I participate on a few volunteer boards myself. But then when I see, people sitting here, like, I mean, my profession is a security specialist. I do bodyguard work, so I have to read a problem before it happens. That's what I have to do. I have to read it from across the room. I have to read it from a distance. I have to read eyes, mouth, nose, ears. A lot of you probably know me. I know you look at me. I waved to you when I came in, Mike. But nevertheless, I came here 9 years ago, and I felt love. I became a volunteer on the board of directors at the YMCA, and I seen love. For whatever reason, maybe it was the spirit that made things happen, because that's what happens. Sometimes people don't even know why they do things. Like, to say fight, to say, using words, the buzzwords that these people, and I want to know what people would fight. Who's coming in violence? It was said, I watched a little clip of this, and it says those people. I'm not sure, but then I'm reading faces from a distance, and I'm saying, man, look at this guy. How is he sitting there? And I'm not going to point at nobody. I'm not going to point the finger at nobody. But you know who you are already. I'm not going to point the finger at nobody. But you have to understand, there's people that care. I mean, we never been here before. We didn't come here before. Why are we here? I served the Corvallis, Albany area, and this is my first time here in Albany. I may have had lunch with the mayor once, but, I figured Albany was all right until I watched the video. I said, wait a minute, what happened? This is not the one that I know. So something is going on here. Maybe that can be explained. And I learned one thing as a housing development commissioner for the Lynn County, that it always takes the majority in most cases to overrule a decision. And I heard you say at the beginning that it has to be unanimous. Well, I mean, that's another issue. I can go on the record now and say that I hope it's unanimous. I hope there was a misunderstanding somewhere, because I don't think this is that complicated. And for whatever reason that one might believe that, or 2 or 3 or 4 may believe that, maybe they need to reevaluate what's been said, or what maybe the definition is. Now, you all know that I came from New York, born and raised in Harlem, New York, and it wasn't easy, but I made it here. I made it here, and I'm in one piece. And many of you may know the story how I got here. I'm not going to get into all of that. But Fred has a decent heart. And that's how I live. That's how I live. If I live any other way, it's going to weigh me down. Now, I can stay here until it's dark outside and talking. I can. But I'm not going to do that. I wasn't even going to say anything. But then I see my sister Arlene here. Oh man, and she told me this story. And this is hurting. And then I see somebody schmugging. I'm like, man, what? What's going on here? Why is this happening? Who is this person? If we can't get on the same page, we're in trouble. We don't want no more attention than we need. We don't need that attention. We don't. We need to stay busy, get working, getting together, coming together. That's what we need to do. Forget about everything else. This is a new day now. A lot of people, when I came here, was thinking when they came up, and they may have been 80 or 90 years old. It's not the same. It's not the same now. It's a little different. So I'm hoping that everybody here, all you fine people that work so hard, to make things right, and I know you do. I know you do, because that's why you're here. I'm hoping you guys can figure out that there's no violence here. Nobody's fighting. Those people don't fight, whatever you're saying. We're not here to fight. We're nonviolent. And I know that might sound odd because I carry a weapon, but like I said, that's my business. And I came here with that. It wasn't given to me here. I came here with that. So, in closing, I hope you all can figure this out, that we're here in support of one love, togetherness. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Very well, thank you. Okay, there was another lady in the back. Yes, here she comes.
My name's Heather Carmichael, C-A-R-M-I-C-H-A-E-L. I live at 4000 Northwest Ridgecrest in North Albany. I was not planning to say anything, but something has struck me here tonight, and that is the lack of representation of people of color in our city government. And I think I think you're joking yourself if you think that, I understand Albany wants to be a welcoming and embracing community, but I don't think I'm speaking just for myself. When I speak as a person of color, we don't feel that way. My child experienced racism last year in her school, and because of that, I got involved. North Albany Middle School is experiencing, South Shore students come into North Albany Middle School. We're the feeder school for them. And they experience bullying, they experience racial slurs. I want harmonious to be in the language. That is a goal. I love that goal. But harmonious includes diversity, inclusivity, equality, for all of us to feel that this is a place where we can raise our kids, where it will be safe, and where we feel heard and represented and supported. And I actually want to thank the white people that spoke tonight. I appreciate that they took the stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we got everyone this evening, and yes, go ahead. I think probably most folks want to kind of see the results of the ordinance too, so we'll...
So my name is Joanne
Yes.
Miller. I live 2925 West Park Court Southeast. I'm a resident of Ward 3. And I want to know that I am very, very supportive of the work that our city council does and representing the community. But I want to be assured that my representatives from Ward 3 recognize me. I'm an African-American woman living in Albany. I've been in Oregon 23 years. I've been in Albany for the last 8, where I chose to purchase my home. When the ballots came around for election, I chose to put your names on them. I circled your names. And I'm willing to say that publicly because I believed what you had written in the ballot. I hope that buzzwords and those people are not what you truly feel. I really hope that as a member of this community and as a servant of Oregon, Albany, Oregon Planning Commission and other events that happen within my community, that I am willing to participate and encourage my peers and colleagues to participate, become something that you say, we don't have that here. I want you to understand that when I vote consciously and intentionally, and I hope that it doesn't go unrecognized and unappreciated, and not recognizing that I live in Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne, for your service to the city also. So, yes, I think we'll take one more and, okay, probably 2 more real quick, and then, because I think everyone else might start losing their patience, they want to hear what the outcome of the ordinance is. So, yes, ma'am.
Please forgive me, I don't do public speaking very well. I get a little emotional and nervous. But my name is Lisa Walker, and I live at 2917 Valley View Drive, Northwest. I watched the last city council meeting on YouTube, and I was shocked. I was upset, I was irritated, and I fired off an email to several of you, and I apologize if I hit the wrong one, because I'm so mad that I gave you a few of you a piece of my mind that didn't belong to you, so I would apologize. And you responded very eloquently with that, and I appreciate that. We've talked a lot about diversity in our community. We have just announced the Pride Week. That's a huge thing in this community. It was a long process, I'm sure. Appreciate all your hard work. I live in that community. I am a lesbian. I live in North Albany, and there's actually a lot of us up there, believe it or not. But more importantly, I feel that diversity is not acknowledged even in my community, where there's a huge amount of us. My daughter goes to Fir Grove, and that's part of the Grove School District. And for the last 2 years, they've had a father-daughter dance. My daughter is excluded from that process. Now, when I brought that to them, to the PTC, and I said, you know, this is a problem. The question I was asked, well, why should I change what I want to do to adjust to your family? I took that as an educational opportunity, and I explained to the people at the PTC that in a school system, that in a school program, it's not about your family, it's about all of the students. They have made a decision not to change that dance as effectively now, and that's something that I'm working on within that community, and I hope that that will change in the future, because a father-daughter dance cannot be substituted with a mother-son scavenger hunt, which is what was come up with to meet that need. That's a problem. Diversity is important. Equity is important. Equity doesn't mean giving people what they need. It means giving them the opportunity to meet the need. Taking down the barriers, saying we are all the same. Let's work on making it inclusive in our communities, in our environments, in our homes, in our schools. And language matters. And I appreciate it when you guys think about this process and you think about what it means, where it starts. It starts with words. It starts with how you move forward and how you look back. And I want my 6-year-old daughter to say, you know what, I live in a community that cares about me, that cares about my parents, that cares about the children next door to me. The little boy that couldn't go because he doesn't have his dad. His dad died in the war. He can't go. The little girl that says, you know what, I want to go to the scavenger hunt. It's fun. It sounds cool. She can't go. She's not a boy. Those things are not acceptable to 6-year-olds, to 26-year-olds, to 56-year-olds, to 96-year-olds. They shouldn't be accepted in this community, and we start with words. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so I think the last ma'am, yes.
My name is Alicia Jane Allen. I live at 3055 Quail Court Southeast, Albany, Oregon 97322. I moved here 17 years ago with my mom because she had an amazing opportunity to become an intern and then a doctor for Lynn County Mental Health, and she is the strongest person I know.
That's a hard job.
Yeah.
Bless her.
We moved here in 2000, and on my first day of school, I was walking home. I went to South Albany, and I graduated from South Albany in 2002. On my very first day, as I was walking home, we had a friend that I had made that day because I love people. I was confused by all of the white faces in my school because I moved here from Orlando, Florida. And I didn't know if segregation still existed here. And when I asked that, I was called an N lover, and I was jumped by students from South Albany. I was beaten and left. And the friend that I had made was scared. And when I reported it to the office, I was told that it probably wouldn't happen again. I'm strawberry blonde. I'm Irish. I'm very, very white, even under all these tattoos. You can see my freckles and my red hair. And just asking where all of the other people who aren't white were resulted in fractured teeth, multiple bruises, and a pretty terrified little white girl, or as little as I was when I was 16. That was my first experience with Albany. And we moved here for this amazing opportunity for my mom. Harmony is such a good idea. I love harmony. I sing in 4-part harmony with my family. I sing in harmony with St. Albans Episcopal Choir. I love the idea of harmony. But harmony was something that I came here thinking already existed. And if it had, I probably wouldn't have been jumped for asking where the people who didn't look like me were. Great idea. Obviously didn't exist. So if a council that already exists is asking to change the wording of the thing that they want to do to make themselves better, maybe just do that.
All right, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I think that will end for business from the public this evening, and we really appreciate everyone's input on this upcoming ordinance. So, council, with that, we do have a second reading. So Jessica, would you like to read it?
Yes.
It's on page 5, council.
An ordinance amending Albany Municipal Code, AMC 2.25, Albany Human Relations Commission.
Okay, and council, what would you like to do with this ordinance?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I guess I'll go first. So we're discussing a proposed language changes to the existing ordinance. And the ordinance, in my opinion, is basically the rules and regulations, or another way I kind of looked at it is the operating instructions on how the commission, what the commission is supposed to do and how it's supposed to do it. It's pretty typical language you have with all our other boards and commissions. And I think, in my opinion, that, and that's all I'm going to give you tonight, it's my opinion. We all have opinions, and I'm just sharing mine. But in my opinion, I think there's value in simple and brief and to-the-point language. And I'll give you a good example. At the beginning of the meeting, we all stood up and said the Pledge of Allegiance. And that was written in 1892. And the last 6 words are, "with liberty and justice for all." Now, it hasn't changed in 125 years. Granted, in 1958, they did add "under God," but in reference to the last 6 words, "with liberty and justice for all," that hasn't changed. So I do see value in simple, brief, and to-the-point language. So on the specific language, it currently says the Human Relations Commission is established by the City Council to promote harmonious relations among the citizens of Albany. And the proposed change, the Human Relations Commission is established by the City Council to strengthen connections within Albany's diverse community. And I get back to this simple and brief and to the point. And for me, my interactions with the Human Relations Commission, for what they're doing, I'm comfortable with the existing language, promote harmonious relations among the citizens of Albany. And again, I get back to with liberty and justice for all. In 125 years, nobody had to try and define all. I mean, we it all. So the other proposed change is in the section on duties and responsibilities. And again, these are the rules and regulations, or as I like to say, operating instructions on how to form the duties and responsibilities. And I think it's important that we keep it in context, because the sentence that has the proposed changes is the 3rd sentence in that section. The 2nd sentence is just as important. The commission shall have the duty to make recommendations to the city council and to the city manager as outlined in section 225.10. That's the section we just talked about, has the first section. So the commission is supposed to make recommendations to the council. Then it discusses how they're to do that. So the existing language, in formulating its recommendations, the Human Relations Commission shall strive for actions that lead to positive and respectful relations in the community. I received a few emails, and some people thought, it's too generic. It could be stronger. But in my opinion, it's straight. It's to the point. I understand it. Going to strive for actions that lead to positive and respectful relations in the community. Now, there was some confusion about why we didn't vote this through the first time, and it's a procedural thing, but it did allow the opportunity for all you folks to come tonight. But it also allowed me to meet with Graham Kislenberry, one of the commission members, and we had a good discussion. And to me, this isn't a discussion about should we have a Human Relations Commission or not. In my opinion, they're doing good work. They're doing necessary work. They're doing important work. And the meeting I had with Graham kind of supported that. He told me about a couple of activities that they've been involved in that, quite honestly, I hadn't heard of. So when I ended the discussion with Graham, I did make a recommendation. I think that the commission could do a better job of reporting to the council or communicating with the council or include us in, what it is you're doing, what problems you see, what you'd like to do, what fun activities you'd like to do. And we just need to see more interaction with council. And we can be supportive of those things. Like I said, especially after meeting with Graham, doing some good things, great things I hadn't even heard about. So I think there is an opportunity to there. So.
Any other comments? Yeah, Rich?
Well, seeing as how I'm the one that got blamed for all this, I'll give you a little reasoning how come. To begin with, some of you have mixed marriages. So did I. In 1960s, Martin Luther King made his famous speech about how people should be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Well, when I heard that, I agreed with it because that's what I had been doing. In my life, my friends in grade school, one was a Hispanic and one was an American Indian. My best friend in the Navy was a fellow by the name of Guadalupe Rodolfo Castillo Rivas. And if you think I didn't have to try a little while to make sure I got the R rolled correctly for him. My lady friend's first name was Maria. I hold people accountable. I don't care what color somebody is. I have friends who are gay. I have friends that are gay, or I have people who are gay in my acquaintance that I just simply don't like. I mean, I once hired a woman only because she told me she was a lesbian. May sound strange. The last question in the interview is, what's the thing in your life that's going sideways right now? What's the question you'd least like to have me ask you? At which point she says, well, about her sexuality. And I go, oh, well, thanks for telling me, being honest. A week later, when I offered her the job, she said she had to ask. She figured that there was no possibility that she was going to get the job. And I said, well, I gave you an opportunity to tell me the truth or to lie to me. That's what it's about. You not only told me the truth, you told me the truth even though in your heart of hearts you were not going to get the job because of it. So that's what I've found, someone who is honest. That means my till is safe. Oh, it puts it in perspective. Now, I will tell you, I learned way more than I wanted to learn about lipstick lesbians. It's just too much information.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, political correctness.
So.
That's right. Vote against me. Bottom line.
Okay, let's go ahead and finish.
In 200, I have served for 4 years, and I have been to over 200 meetings of the county commission. And in those 200 meetings, I have spoke for the city exactly once. And that was when, it's been within the last few weeks, when the city had a house that was in disrepair on Maryland Street. And the county is taking it over. Now, the reason that happens is because this group individually has no horsepower. None. We do not set any kind of rules or anything by ourselves. It takes 4 votes. No one can say what Albany wants or Albany doesn't want by themselves. The mayor can't. None of the rest of us can. Now, when the commission goes and talks to somebody about what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, what they're doing is setting policy. When you tell somebody at the county that they should pronounce something some way or use a specific group of associations. You're telling them you are a city commission telling them what goes on. If you don't say, hey, I'm doing this only by myself, and that's what I have to do every time I speak to the county. I'm here individually. And if you don't do that, you are telling them what the city is telling you to do. And you don't have that authority. No. I mean, the bottom line is,
That is just BS.
Right, Graham, it's time for the council to deliberate. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
bottom line, the council sets the standard. That's why the commission is supposed to come to the council and say, this is what we want to do. And say, and the 4 votes, whichever 4 votes comes up with it, says, okay, fine, do that. That's policy. If you do it on your own, you're making policy. We're the ones who are responsible for that.
Okay, all right, council, anything else? Or, well, I think Ray did,
Yeah.
and then Bessie.
I would like to remind her that Councilor Cullen look at the purpose of the Human Relations Commission. It does say in that second sentence, it is created to recommend programs, activities, ordinances, expenditures, et cetera, et cetera. That is what the commission did. They recommend an ordinance. That's what we're deliberating over right now. A little slightly different perspective, possibly. Have any of you folks ever seen the movie South Pacific? Phenomenal song in there is, you have to be taught to hate. And it goes on and on and on. Now, the director and the writers clarified there, they fixed their little conundrum that they came up with because they killed the guy off, but that's a whole different issue. But the song itself was very, very resonant, and I encourage all of you to watch that song just by looking it up on YouTube. Now, interestingly enough, the Supreme Court more than once has said, forthrightly, while I disagree with it, that the language, because of the First Amendment, that even most instances of what we construe as hate speech is absolutely protected speech. If it is used to intimidate, harass, raise somebody's blood pressure, antagonize, that is by design. That is what the country was founded on, was that ability to be able to do that and then have civil discourse. We don't have to choose to use that language ourselves. We don't have to choose to infer that what somebody says means what you think it means. You can use it just as the straight definition of what is listed right there. I strongly concur with 99% of the presenters here tonight. I will be voting in favor of it. I would also say, and this is I'm going out on a limb, that probably the majority of the community, while not overt, is in fact racist. And I say that because it's not what they are doing, it's what they're saying, it's what they are ignoring. It is also the fact that it is part of their DNA, part of how they were brought up, part of their history, part of, and all we can try and do is give a single voice to say, this isn't quite right, I can't cure it, it's in my DNA. I am a representative of white privilege. I have no qualms about saying that. And for anybody to say that they have never been exposed to it or never seen it, I think they're not looking in a mirror close enough. So, be that as it may, my vote is going to be strongly in favor of the changes to the language.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that any of you who spoke and have had bad experiences with your kid or yourself and stuff, I'm really sorry for that. But we can't legislate behavior. It's a learned thing. Excuse me? Albany's got a long ways to go, just like every other city in the country, But I don't think changing 7 words is going to make a difference. I think.
Wait, okay, folks.
It takes reflection. You had your chance.
This,
you know.
Right, the council process here is.
This isn't easy for us either. I mean, okay, the only reason that most people came is because this is an issue. Anytime anybody comes, it's for an issue, because they care about it. What about, you know, we represent 50,000 people. And so it's not like just because one group thinks this way, the other group thinks the other way, or whatever, we have to decide what we feel is the best for the community. And I don't think changing a few words, I mean, it's all, I know, I can hear you sighing and whatever, but if you make it simple, and like Bill said, you know, something hasn't changed in 125 years, yeah, it's changed maybe not the meaning of the Pledge of Allegiance, but you change, I always say you can't legislate stupidity, and that's what some people are. I mean, I don't want anybody to feel like they're disparaged or not liked or anything like that, you know. I hate to have, you know, my kid have to go to another school and stuff, but it's not going to make any, this is not going to make any difference. It's how we are in the community.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
You want to leave it the same?
Yes, I do.
You are legislating stupidity right there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, folks. Point of order.
Could you
You know,
remove that person, please?
right.
I don't want to be disrespected like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, let me clarify here. You know, we go through a process when it's public meetings, and you get people on both sides, as we saw this evening, and the one thing we do is we want everybody to be respectful of other people's opinions. So this is the time the council did listen to the concerns. This is their time to deliberate. And whether you agree with it or not, this is what the public process is. And many times, we have many decisions that people are, you know, overjoyed, they're very pleased. There's many times they're not. This is our, you know, democratic process that we have here. And that's what we value in our country, and to be able to have people be able to listen to those concerns. And many times, we might not agree with the outcome, and many times we do. So let's please let the council be able to, you know, decide on their own after hearing the testimony. Thank you. Okay, any other concerns? Mike?
From what I'm getting from this conversation, that if these 12 words aren't changed, the Human Rights Commission falls apart. So the whole Human Rights Commission hinges on these 12 words, and everything they've done falls to pieces because these 12 words aren't included into the resolution. It all hinges on these 12 words. That's what I'm getting. So if these 12 words aren't changed, the Human Rights Commission can't function? That doesn't make any sense to me.
That's not what it is, Mike.
Right, I know.
Well,
I know.
That's not what it is, you know that.
Can you please hold it?
Yes,
Hold
I
it
know.
down.
Right. Is that any other question, any other comments over the
I'd like
motion?
to comment, yes.
Yeah, Dick?
Looking at the original ordinance and listening to your comments, and I think the vast majority of you were in favor of changing our ordinance. But I heard several of you commenting that you thought harmony was a good thing. I think harmony. And I see several of my neighbors here, and I think that we live in a fairly harmonious, friendly neighborhood. You don't think so? That's a shame. I live close enough here that I walk to the meeting, so you can guess about where I live. When I moved to that neighborhood 50 years ago, it was kind of a scruffy place. People were talking about moving out because it wasn't a very nice place to live. But over time, it's changed. And I think some of you who live in my neighborhood might comment that it is a fairly harmonious place to live. Now, I'm not going to recommend that we, again, try and change the changes to incorporate harmony into the change in the ordinance. But what I am going to suggest is that if the commission feels that a change in the wording will be able to make them more effective, and that they'll be able to bring us solutions to make Albany a better place, I think we ought to go ahead and make these changes. And I think the proof of the pudding will be, what can you bring to us? So I tend to, in fact I intend, to vote for changing the ordinance in the way that the commission has asked that we would.
Okay, I think we've heard, any other comments, council? Okay, so the motion is for the changes in the text that's proposed in the ordinance. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Could we get a roll call?
Please?
Mm-hmm.
Olson?
Yes. Aye.
Sykes?
No.
Johnson?
No.
Kellum?
No.
Hopsinski?
Yes.
Coburn?
No.
Okay, so the motion is 2 yes, 4 no. It takes 4 yeses for any action with our charter, so you have to have 4 yes. So with that, we have no changes to the ordinance.
You're on.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a suggestion, and that suggestion is, I think there's some value in some of the changes. And Dick mentioned the harmonious, specifically in section 225.40, in the community was crossed out, and I see value to including that. So my suggestion would be that council meets with the Human Relations Commission and just have a discussion on it. You know, some people say wordsmithing. Pick the words you want, but the point is, I think there's some value here, and I think there's an opportunity to kind of work through it and come up with some language changes that maybe everybody likes. So that's just a suggestion on my part. And I would propose we do it at a work session sometime.
I think we can. We can go ahead and schedule that and get a joint work session with the Human Relations Commission. So I think that'd be very valuable. But okay, all right. Anything else? With that, we will take a recess.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, folks, for attending. Thank you. Dick? Oh, Dick and Rich are in the back.
No, there was something that's
It shows on.
For some people, that's probably true.
They didn't care what the mayor said.
Okay, all right. We are going to get back, we're back on the air, and Mary's all ready? Okay. Council, first you have first reading of ordinance. And if I remember right, I think, Marilyn, did you say someone wanted to talk about, was here?
I think we may have someone here, yes.
For, on the taxi cabs?
Not certain.
Was there anybody here that were going to speak on the taxi cab?
I don't see the person who called me.
You don't, okay, all right, then you must not. Okay, so there's a first reading, so Jessica, would you like to do that, please?
Yes. An ordinance of the City of Albany, Oregon, repealing Albany Municipal Code, Chapter 5.14, taxi cabs in its entirety, and repealing number ordinance 5424.
Move that the ordinance be read a second time in title only.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, second reading.
An ordinance of the City of Albany, Oregon, repealing Albany Municipal Code, Chapter 5.14, taxi cabs in its entirety, and repealing number ordinance 5424.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, now we have an adoption of a resolution, and this is one that we had at our work session on Monday, and this would be for, with the loan agreement. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about it, Chris? Yes. Or Jeff?
Well, we have a staff report, but in the interest of time, if you're inclined to pass the resolution, I would be willing to forego my presentation. If you'd
Okay.
like to hear me talk for 10 minutes, I would be willing to do so.
Do we still save all the money?
This resolution is in regards to a new loan for the Riverfront Interceptor and giving staff authorization to submit the application with an intent to construct the project at a 20-year term, 1.5% interest rate on a $13 million project. This is separate and standalone from the refinancing of our existing debt, but obviously if we're successful in our refinancing efforts, that will represent a significant annual offset to that debt.
And at this point, we're just talking about getting the money, not talking about how internally we pay for it. Is that? It's about
the debt service would be paid from the sewer utility using sewer rate revenues.
Okay, thanks.
So, on a related topic, this has nothing to do with the refinancing of the loan that we talked about Monday night.
Correct. Would you like to hear would you like me to go through?
But I don't see that on the agenda either, so.
It's
So
not.
let's just deal with
So
this.
the timelines they're separate and standalone. The point of speaking to the relation of them is that right now we have annual debt service payments on those two existing loans. If we refinance them under the terms that we are hopeful and anticipate being able to refinance under, if DEQ adopts the program that Chris talked about on Monday, we would save in annual debt service payments about $550,000 a year. This new loan, at the terms that we would be pursuing, would come at an annual cost of $750,000 per year. And we also have debt that will be coming off in 2020 for payments on the land purchase for Talking Water Gardens, which will take $500,000 in payments off the books. So best case scenario is we reduce and we have a reduction of $1 million on those other items in annual payments, and we would be adding this new one at $750,000, which means we have no impact to rates, no impacts to the amount of work we can get done. Worst case scenario is the refinance piece doesn't go through, and we're looking at potentially scaling back on the amount of other routine capital projects that we might do on an annual basis. But-
Okay, well, I appreciate it. The gentleman here was asking me during the break, you know, if our rates are going to go through, to pay for this. That helps answer that. We're going to offset that with potential savings on the other loans we have, so thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, council, there's a resolution on page 13.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Next, we have a consent calendar, and if there isn't any items that need to be pulled off this evening, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to comment on 3 and 4.
Items 3 and 4?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Jesse?
that was my
Same
two
one?
also.
Anyone else?
Keith probably the same thing.
Okay, so then we'll need a motion for 1, 2, and 5.
Move for the adoption of the consent calendar minus 3 and 4.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, 3, Dick?
Yeah, 3 and 4, on pages 25 and 37. Are we really going to call Wes Hare back to sign these items? It says on the, I think the resolutions that Wes Hare needs to be signing.
I noticed that, and as part of the signature phase, I will change that to our new city manager.
Good.
Or you have the option to send Jeff to Tanzania. Get that signature.
Good catch, Dick. Yes,
Yeah,
didn't catch
we're going to
that.
give it a ticket on the Cessna 150.
Yeah.
So that I'd like to move that we adopt 3 and 4 with the changes.
I'm sorry.
Just a second.
I'm sorry, Dick, I have a comment on.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, she did,
Okay.
yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
When reading this, I noticed that all the signatures and all the X's and stuff, this is probably the sloppiest document I've ever seen. And I just wondered if everything is right. There's names here, there's names X'd out here, they've done signed here, they've signed down here. So it's really, like I said, it's really a sloppy document. And so I've never seen one come to
It was
council
kind of
like this.
confusing. Waverly Land Management has many people in the family that's a part of Waverly Land Management. So,
Yeah, I
it was kind of
realized that.
And they're
confusing.
changing, the number is changing as well.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people are being bought out, or, I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how it's happening, but it is changing.
Yeah.
I realized that.
But yeah, it was a little confusing for me too when I seen that, but.
I read it about 3 times and I thought, okay, now who's really signing it and
Yeah.
what did they do? And did somebody
Yeah.
die or did somebody, whatever.
I can't
So-
speak to the specifics on it, and I apologize for that, but
That's okay.
I know we were in a big crunch to get them their occupancy so they could
Sure.
open, and these are the types of documents we have to have before we sign off on things, and there was, just speculation is that we deemed it more important to get the doors open than to recirculate for a clean document.
Now, I've kind of questioned that a little bit. I think the documents are kind of important, but I understand, sometimes.
And that might not even be what happened, just
Yeah,
speculation.
okay, so I'm okay with that, but like I said, I've just never seen anything so sloppy come to the council before. Because who knows what's legal
Yeah.
and what's not, so.
Okay, so Dick, you made a motion then, or Dick?
I did, to
Okay.
accept items 3 and 4.
3 and 4? Okay.
And the necessary changes in personnel signing.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Oh, motion carried. Okay, council, on the back is on page 42 is appointing Robert Brown to the library board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, and any discussion?
I did.
Yep. Okay. All those in favor say aye? Or did
Aye.
you have a question, Dick?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
just seconded it.
Oh, okay. All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. And then on page 45 is you have the TLT Advisory Committee, and this is all of the appointments to the TLT Advisory Committee. That's in front of you on page 45, and their applications.
I would move to approve with one parcel, to make sure, I see Peggy here today, and I know that Peggy is eminently qualified, but in the back of my head, there is something that there was a codicil that you had to be away from a board that received for a year, and I don't know if that was still there or not. And I would hate to have us do this and then have her put on and taken off, and then we could have to, anyway.
Was it a year or 6 months?
I don't know what it was.
I was thinking it was
But I
6
don't
months.
want to get to the position where they're ready to go do something and she can't participate for, and then we'd have to come back and say, oh yeah, it's okay, and, so I guess.
I don't think it's going to be meeting for a while anyway, is it, or is it proposed to be? Or?
Well, September's when they're due, but, once they get all put together, they can meet when they want.
And I think, Councilor Cullum, I think that was a comment that came when the first one was established. I don't think it's part of the policy, but.
Well, just so we're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you can still approve that, and then we can check on it. Okay?
Second, is there a second?
Was there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right. Thank you, ladies, for sticking it out. Sorry you had a long meeting to sit through. But it was good seeing you, Peggy. Yeah, been a while. Thank you so much. Okay, next is business from the council, but before that, I think, Chris, did you want to talk about the item on the stormwater fees?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The councilor should have on the dais a memo regarding the stormwater questions that Mr. Robinson brought. Mr. Robinson's here tonight, he's stuck it out. And I want to just talk briefly about that while he's here, and hopefully the council can take action on this and give us direction. So Mr. Robinson came to the last council meeting to discuss his charges at his property at 100 Davidson Street. And there were two main points that he brought up that I wanted to address. First, there was a discussion about a perceived relationship between charges for water, sewer, and stormwater. As the council is probably aware, each utility is charged based on its own rate resolution and how that rate resolution applies to each customer. Typically, customers who have more than one service can only get one bill, although not everyone does, but that's just a matter of administrative efficiency. And the other thing that may give a perception of a relationship was when the stormwater charges went into effect, council simultaneously reduced water and sewer rates. And that was done because some portion of the new stormwater revenue was going to pay for things that water and sewer had been paying for. In order to recognize that, council reduced those rates accordingly. So there really is no actual relationship between the charges. Each is charged separately and administered according to whatever each property gets. The main gist of what Mr. Robinson presented was that he was requesting to be excluded from the stormwater charges for his Davidson Street property, primarily because it's not directly connected to a piped system, stormwater system that the city owns. And we actually anticipated this issue when we were developing the stormwater program, and council may remember last October, we spent a great deal of time discussing the concept of the structure of the rate, equity versus simplicity, as well as a waiver program. And there are excerpts from that memo or in your memo that you received tonight. I'm not going to go through all of that because this will be the second or third time you have seen that, but I want to just point out one part of that. There are several reasons why staff and our consultants recommended against a waiver program. And one of them is that stormwater management is more than just a direct connection to the city's stormwater system. The city's stormwater program benefits every parcel in town, regardless of where it happens to drain. Some examples of that are we manage existing stormwater infrastructure so that our streets and sidewalks are passable during rain events. We have development codes, engineering standards, and other rules and regulations that are put in place as development and redevelopment happens, and those help protect impact or limit impacts of runoff on both upstream and downstream properties where development is taking place. Stormwater management also includes work that we do to keep pollutants out of our lakes and streams, responding to spills, providing education and outreach, and generally trying to keep the lakes and streams water quality as good as we can manage it. And finally, the stormwater regulations which affect the city affect the entire city. When we receive our municipal permit, it will be for the entirety of the municipality, and properties will not be exempted from those rules based on where they drain. And all of that work has costs that are associated with it. And the stormwater rate revenue target was developed to account for all of that work as well as our ongoing operation and maintenance costs. The last 2 points I want to make is that, as we mentioned in the memo, waiver programs are administratively complex. It would require development of a whole new process and system. We would likely have to hire additional staff. It would be time-consuming, and we would not be able to just give a waiver to one property. It would have to be developed for the entire class of properties. That would add costs to the program. It would increase our revenue target and probably raise rates just in and of itself. So that's a concern. The second concern is that, one of the questions that was raised was that what do other jurisdictions do? And we discussed this with council as well. Most jurisdictions, almost all, do not offer any sort of waiver program, and the ones that do tend to be very small communities. There's an email from Wes when Mr. Robinson contacted him about that question, that Wes's response to him is attached to your memo tonight, looking into that issue. So Mr. Robinson mentioned that there's discretion language in the resolution, and he's requesting that the city use discretion to exempt his property. And that's not, the discretion language is not a waiver program. If we had a waiver program, it would be extremely more detailed and well thought out and written in the ordinance or the resolution as a waiver. The discretion that's mentioned is intended to give staff some flexibility when dealing with really complicated billing situations where it may be less expensive to suspend a bill for a month or so than to administratively do all the changes that come with some of these complicated properties. So we haven't used it. We don't intend to use it very often, but it's a tool to give staff the ability to save the city money when they can do that. So for all of those reasons, and because we've been through this with the council before, we recommend that you not approve a waiver or exemption from the stormwater fee for Mr. Robinson. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Yeah, Rich?
There has been in total, or kind of, stormwater comes in two levels. One is for the street and one is for the square footage.
Right.
Is he being charged both?
Yes, so what you're referring to is the base rate, which includes a charge everyone gets for right-of-way and things we all use, and a charge that in the non-single-family residential category is calculated based on actual impervious square footage, and he is being charged both, just as everyone else in town is. Do you have something to say?
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Oh, hey, don't let me stop you. I need to fit in. Go ahead. I may think of the other question that I had in a minute.
Did you have something to say, Jeff?
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Might not end up being important.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. All right. So,
I have questions.
So, did you want to come up, John?
I would be happy to if I'm allowed.
Yes, go ahead and come forward. I mean, this isn't like it's not going to be a big debate here situation, so just if you got a comment.
No, I understand, but I do have some questions
Yeah.
that I think need clarifying, and without that, and I don't think that you can make the proper decision. So, at any rate, one of the things that I presented you last time was this document that you all got. Mm-hmm. Nowhere in that document did I request a waiver, okay? Chris Bailey has just sent this other document, the state's on here. I wanted a waiver, I asked for a waiver, waiver. We went down this waiver road. Didn't ask for a waiver, never used that terminology. I asked for the city to use its discretion which is back into the resolution where it says, under conditions, city discontinues billing for other utility services, which I do not have. It may at its discretion choose to discontinue billing for stormwater services. That's what I asked for. I'm not receiving any other bills. I asked not to receive that one. So that's not the same as a waiver. Within the stormwater ordinance or the resolution, there is some waivers in there that the council took time to put in for big companies like Oregon Freeze Dry, all that kind of stuff. It's in there. It's fairly complicated. But I didn't ask for a waiver. I asked to be looked at as again, discretion. And I'm kind of confused by the answer about that question about discretion, and this is kind of some of the problem I've had in asking this question before at staff. This is the first time I've gotten this answer about the language not intended to be used to request a waiver for stormwater charges. Intended to give staff flexibility in working through complicated billing situations without creating unnecessary administrative burdens. It's fairly clear English to me, and so I don't understand these complicated billings. I really don't. The part about the billing seems very clear in the resolution. So there's the part about the billing that says we're going to have unified billing. We're going to send one bill out for stormwater, water, and sewer. It also states in there that, oh, when we get the money, we're going to apply it first to stormwater, second to drinking water, and third to sewer. Seems pretty clear. And then it says, oh, if there's a delinquent account and we don't get enough money, then what we can do is turn off their water to ensure that we get all their money. So those are pretty simple. So I'm confused about these complicated billing situations that are kind of come up with respect to the city using its discretion. I kind of feel like what the city's saying is everybody pays regardless. If that's the case, then we don't even need a sentence in there about discretion. If there's some discretion the city has, then I would expect some kind of a work procedure, a process, saying, okay, well, Fred has the discretion. He has the authority to issue the discretion. Or in order to issue discretion, here's our criteria in a work procedure. 1 has to be met, 2 has to be met, 3 has to be met. Instead, I'm not hearing any of that. So what I'm getting is, it's discretion, we're not going to use it, but we put it in there in case, and it just seems kind of shifty to me when there's 5 or 6 pages in this resolution that are very clear English-wise. And I sat here like everybody else did for 2 hours and listened about words. So these words are kind of important to me. One of the things that came out in here was I asked last time I was here was how many properties are like mine in the city that don't have any city sewer or water services? I still haven't got an answer to that. In here, the answer is many, several examples, but I don't know how many. Is it 5? Is it 2? Is it 3? I'd still like to know that. Kind of the other comment I have is the fact that I kind of feel like, you know, the city is not going to be able to give me a very unbiased opinion because you want to collect all the money. And so I didn't request from Wes Hare that he go find out what other cities were doing. Just the opposite. I said, here's the Albany resolution. I want these questions answered about the Albany resolution. I don't care what other cities are doing. I really don't. So that was kind of a smokescreen that Wes had. He kind of went off and ran with that, put up something on a link serve and came back and sent me this thing saying, hey, these other cities don't do it either. And I don't care what other cities are doing. I kind of look at this where the foxes are watching the chicken house. If all the foxes survey the foxes and say, hey, should anybody else be watching the chicken house? No, it just us foxes should watch the chicken house. And that's the same as saying, well, none of the other cities are doing it, so we shouldn't do it either. We want as much money as they do. So that's some of my comments to the response that I got from the city, and those are the things that I'd still like answered, is a more complete understanding about this complicated process that you need this discretion on. It should be noted that, without going to the individual statements in here that you talked about back in October of 2016 and everything, about striking a balance and the drainage characteristics and all this kind of stuff. If you read between the lines here, what this says is that, well, if there's something the city wants to do, we'll move heaven and earth and do it. If there's something we don't want to do, then it's going to be complicated, overly burdensome, we're going to have to hire more people. If we had to look at these drainage characteristics of each property, it's going to be difficult. And I think, hold on a second, I wasn't even on your radar, I don't get a water and sewer bill, and yet somebody had to go to the state to find my LLC, to identify my property, because I don't get mail there, to find my home address, to mail the bill to me to. Somebody took time to do that, okay? It wasn't just easy because you was already getting a bill. Beyond that, somebody at the city had to sit down, look at Google Earth or whatever, measure the map of all the impervious surface, the driveway, the drain, the roof, calculate that. Am I to believe that nobody in the city got any training on how to do that? You did it to, I don't know, how many properties there are in the city? So clearly, there was some training involved. There was a significant effort involved by the city to come up with those numbers to charge all these businesses in the first place. But then when we talk about looking at its specific property or seeing where it drains, it's like, oh, it's too much for us. We can't do that. We'll have to hire people. So that's my comment, is I don't think I'm going to get an unbiased answer here. But I want to raise these issues because I think they're important.
Hey, Chris, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, just to the number of sewer-only properties, and then Jeff has some things he wants to say. There are actually, or stormwater-only properties, 1,120 stormwater-only properties in the city. And one of the concerns is if you do something for one property in a category, you need to offer that to the entire category. And that, although it's true, Mr. Robinson never used the word waiver, essentially that is what is being asked for, is to be treated differently from the rest of the category. And if we're going to do that, I mean, it's within the council's discretion to do that. We discussed this, a year and a half ago. We do need to do a complicated and administratively more difficult stormwater program. And if the council wants to do that, then we need to raise the rates to support that work. And that's really what it boils down to.
What's the cost to send out the bill?
I have that too.
50 cents.
It's 50 cents. It's 12 and 1/1000th cent to print it, and then we pay 38 cents in postage.
So to receive the payment that I send in and all that, that's all 50 cents?
It's 50 cents to print and to mail you a bill.
Okay, but then you got to receive the payment, credit the payment to my account, deposit the money. I mean, all that takes people, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much.
I'm just getting to the economy of scale of $11.42. I can imagine that,
Well, if you did electronic pay, it would be even faster.
What's that?
If you did electronic bill pay, it'd be even faster, less expensive for the city.
I don't want to help you save money.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. It's just a suggestion.
Yes,
Go ahead, Jeff.
I like that suggestion.
My point is, if it costs you $6 in labor, along with the 50 cents to process the payment, really, on $11.42?
But you got to look at all the other properties in that classification, so it's the overall
I get that.
amount.
I really get that.
It's not just one single.
I totally understand that. I totally understand that. But again, it does go back to the language of the, discretion. I think that's where I just don't understand, and I would have been happy, here's another point, I would have been happy to be part of this conversation back in October or when you were having it. However, part of the way the city notified people was putting an information notice in the water and sewer bill that I don't get.
Well, but then it was in the newspaper. This has been going on for quite a few years, so there's been lots of information out there.
I understand.
And it was done out on social media and all that. It's hard for us to reach out to everyone, but we do our best.
I understand.
So we don't have time to knock on every door to totally make sure they stay informed on stuff, but we do our best.
I understand.
Yeah. Jeff, you want to comment?
Just quickly on the public outreach piece, I can't name another work effort in the almost 16 years now that I've been at the city where there's been more public outreach done than what was undertaken for the stormwater project. And I know many of us have spent a lot of time on the phone with Mr. Robinson. We went through all those details as we have on a number of these things, and I think most of them we're at a point where we're going to need to agree to disagree. The resolution is a case where we're fortunate in that we We have the benefit of being the recent authors of that resolution, and so it's not a case of picking up a document and trying to interpret what was intended when it was written, because we wrote it. And we wrote it recently, and we remember why we did it. And the section of the resolution that refers to discretion was specifically included in that resolution to address a concern expressed by our utility billing manager. So the resolution does say that every developed property will pay for stormwater. We have properties that are rentals. So someone owns a home, they rent it, and their renter puts the bill in their name. That renter leaves, and another renter will move in shortly thereafter. It does not make a lot of sense for a 2-week period, a 3-week period, to create a new account, contact the property owner, send them the bill, have the new renter move in a week later, and then cancel that account, then create another account, new account for that new property owner. So that language was specifically included to give the utility billing department the flexibility to manage that specific situation. That is the discretion that is envisioned, and that language that is the intent and the driver behind why it was included. The intent of the entire program is that every developed property will receive and pay a stormwater utility bill.
So my understanding was that the stormwater bill was going to the property owner, not the tenant. Is that incorrect?
Depends.
So if you had a 4-plex or a 6-plex,
It depends on
does the city take that impervious parking lot and everything and divide it up by 6 and then include it on each of those bills?
As we just said, it depends. Circumstances vary based on the way it's developed.
Apartment complex are also by how much pavement there is, rooftops and all that too. So.
Yeah, correct. No, I was asking.
The example I gave was a single-family residential home.
So you might have an apartment. You might have an apartment where the landlord pays the utilities.
Correct.
In which case it might just be on one bill versus an apartment or 6-block you mentioned, and everybody has to pay their share. So I can see what Jeff is saying. It would vary depending on how the billing is set up for each property.
I'm asking that question because it wasn't my understanding. My understanding was that there was one stormwater bill that went for the property.
No, it really depends.
There's varying circumstances based on the way that the property is structured. In the case of an apartment complex with large parking lots, let's say each unit had its own meter and its own sewer service, and they're paying their own utility bill prior to the stormwater charge, those would still continue to exist. The impervious surface on the property would be sent to the underlying property owner, because we're not going to divvy that up between the individual units on the property. There are so many different variations in how properties are developed in town, and it was no small undertaking to figure out how to do that appropriately.
Okay, all right. Council have any questions? Staff?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, council business from the council then. Bessie, anything this evening?
I just want to say, Chris, the stoplights on Pacific are working.
They are working?
Well, you've heard that they're not working
No.
for so long.
At Hill
They're
Street?
not working. At Hill Street,
Still a problem. When I went by.
still a problem. You got 8 seconds worth of green, 30 seconds, well, then it goes through yellow, and then you have 30 seconds worth of red.
Well, strike me down.
Yeah, and then the next time, there was 11 seconds worth of green. And this is as I was approaching, getting there, counting.
I was going to say, do you just stop at the stoplight or what?
But
sorry.
anyway, by that time I got through, so
I was trying to give you good
that's
news,
all I can
Chris,
tell
and
you.
he just,
That's the,
I know. We'll look into it again. It could be well, I don't know what it is. We'll look into it again.
never mind.
Okay,
Anyway,
all right.
no, I'm fine, that's fine, thank you.
Nothing, Dick?
Yeah, you remember Ed Hemmingson came and he offered to sell us some books, pamphlets, but kind of a magazine that he'd gotten together. And I got around to reading that. And I found out some interesting stuff I hadn't known. that, for one of the Burkhart brothers, he built himself an airplane in 1912, and he flew it here in Albany. It was the second plane to fly in Oregon. He even made a seaplane, flew off the Willamette River. Another interesting factor is that the man who was really the main motive force in getting our airport going here, he ended up being Colonel Charlie Langmack. He and his brother managed to get a plane somehow right after World War I. And he bargained with the property owners, and he got enough property, most of the property that's now the Albany Airport, at age 12. He was giving flying lessons while I was still in junior high. I hadn't known that. So I recommend Ed Hemmingson's book, and take a look at it.
Yeah, I remember them giving us all that story. Remember when we went to support for, the council supported for the museum out of the...
Well, yeah, and I was just a couple of years too late. I got on the council in 98, right. So I missed all.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting, so, yeah.
But I did get here in time to help keep the airport here when there were those who were anxious to sell it off.
Yes. Okay, is that it, Dick?
Yeah.
Okay, Rich?
Nothing tonight.
Okay, Ray? No, Mike?
I'm good.
Okay, and I am too. So Jorge, anything?
I just wanted to, want to go back to this last item where staff is recommending council to deny this. And the reason I'm bringing it back is because it's been back and forth with Mr. Robinson and the staff.
Oh, would you like a motion?
Yeah, we're to the point that we need some direction from the council in order to probably bring a conclusion to this back and forth.
Okay, okay, gotcha. All right, council, would you like to make a motion then? Over this.
I'm sorry.
Move to deny the application for waiver.
Okay.
Yeah, could you,
Oh,
we missed all that, and we couldn't hear it.
Oh, okay, so
I'm
it would be...
I don't think, his microphone, I don't think it's working.
Okay, under stormwater fee waiver request, the action request would be staff recommends council review this response and deny John Robinson's request for a waiver from stormwater charges.
And Councilor Olson, what I was mentioning is that there's been back and forth trying to provide information and communication with Mr. Robinson and staff, and we're to the point that we need council direction on what we should do with this item.
Okay, so there is a motion to deny. Was there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, any discussion?
I'm going to vote against this, not because, it's a lot of money or anything, but I have had an ongoing concern about people who have properties that are landlocked, where the water doesn't leave their place. And we don't have a system for them, and in light of, I'm going to vote no to say I want a system.
Any other comments?
I had a conversation with, boy, this is a lot tonight. I had a conversation with a constituent, and he was very frustrated because similar situation, it doesn't drain to any city maintained area. But he said, I get the big picture. He said, it's part of a system. I'm driving on the roads, my family's driving on the roads. We're all paying for, schools, don't have any kids in schools. We're all paying for the fire department, police department. He says, I've never utilized those services, but, there's a value to the community and fire prevention, so on and so on. He said, but I went down to the city and said, okay, I need to pay this. And they said, yeah, and you're behind 1 month. And he said, all right, can I pay you for an entire year? He said, if it's going to upset me, I'd just as soon get upset once a year instead of every month. And they said, yep, you can pay once a year. And he wrote him a check. And we were kind of chuckling. He said, I'm still frustrated, but he said, I get it. So
I had a landlord like that too. She wanted, She says, I don't want to pay this small amount. You know, she had a couple rentals. Can I just pay it yearly? So that's
Well,
what she
you could
did.
send,
Yeah.
you could send more money in, and when they accept the money, it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had the conversation with 3 or 4 different people, and most everybody gets the base thing that covers the streets. It's the, when it's the impervious area that doesn't go anywhere, that's what's giving them heartburn. So, anyway.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No! I got to do that.
Well, that means yes, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, all right, so motion carried on that. Jorge, anything else? Thank you for catching that, I'm sorry I missed that. But, okay, anything else from staff? Have anything? Yeah, Stuart?
Thank you, Mayor. If I could just follow up on a question that was asked at the last council meeting on an item on the consent calendar regarding liquor licenses and why 2 addresses were identified for some of the locations. The answer is on-site and off-site. If it's an establishment like the Vault 244 and they have seating outside, they need a liquor license for outside as well as inside.
Oh, wow, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Who made that rule?
We just passed that along from the state.
Somebody who wanted money.
And the state actually enforces that.
Oh, LCC, yep. Okay, all right, any staff have anything else? So,
there's so much.
All right, with that, we will recess to executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing